Halloween had always held a special place in our hearts. Sarah and I turned our home into a haunted haven each year, decking it out with everything from cobwebs to jack-o'-lanterns, embracing the spirit of the holiday. For us, it was a time of laughter and creativity, a chance to escape the mundane routines of life and dive into a world of make-believe. This year, we were particularly excited about Jenna's annual Halloween Bash, a gathering that had become a tradition in our social circle. As the evening approached, Sarah transformed into a breathtaking witch, donning a flowing black dress that clung to her curves and dramatic makeup that accentuated her striking features. I opted for the classic vampire look, complete with fangs, a long black cape, and a touch of fake blood for effect. Before we left, we snapped a few selfies, capturing moments of joy that masked the tension brewing beneath the surface. On the drive to the party, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off with Sarah. Her laughter seemed forced, her thoughts wandering far beyond the present moment. I attempted to lighten the mood with anecdotes from past Halloweens, but my jokes fell flat. It was as if an invisible wall had risen between us, one I couldn't quite penetrate. As we stepped into Jenna's house, the energy shifted. The place was transformed into a haunted mansion, complete with eerie decorations, flickering lights, and haunting music that set the tone for the night. Guests were mingling, drinks were flowing, and laughter echoed throughout the rooms. I felt a surge of excitement, but was also acutely aware of the distance between Sarah and me. I spotted a group of friends near the bar and led Sarah toward them, hoping to engage her in the festivities. She smiled politely but seemed distracted, glancing around the room as if searching for something or someone. I tried to catch her eye, but she remained fixated on the crowd, a tension in her posture that didn't go unnoticed. Then I saw him, Officer Daniel. He was in full uniform, a shiny badge glinting under the dim lights, his presence commanding and confident. He was known for his easy charm, but there was something about him that had always rubbed me the wrong way. I couldn't help but feel a knot form in my stomach as I watched him navigate the party with the ease of a politician. My unease grew as I caught sight of Sarah and Daniel chatting near the punch bowl, their laughter rising above the din of the party. My instincts screamed at me as I watched the way she leaned in, her body language inviting, relaxed. I tried to shake off the feeling, but the sight made my blood boil. "Hey, are you going to stand there all night?" My friend Mark nudged me, breaking my focus. "Let's hit the dance floor." Forcing a smile, I joined Mark and a few others, but my eyes couldn't help but drift back to Sarah and Daniel. It felt like I was caught in a whirlwind of emotions, jealousy, anger, confusion, and it was getting harder to breathe. I downed another drink, hoping to wash away my insecurities, but it only heightened my anxiety. As the night wore on, I felt a sense of urgency rise within me. I needed to confront this situation, to pull Sarah away from Daniel and remind her of our connection. I approached them, trying to appear casual, despite the storm brewing inside me. "Hey, Sarah, can I steal you for a moment?" I said, forcing a smile. She looked momentarily surprised, but nodded. "Sure, I'll be right back, Daniel." Her tone was light, but there was an undertone that set off alarms in my mind. We stepped away from the crowd, and I couldn't hold back. "What's going on? You've been spending a lot of time with him." "It's nothing, just friendly banter," she replied, her voice defensive. "Friendly? It looks like you're flirting," I snapped, my frustration boiling over. "Seriously." "You're being paranoid," she retorted, crossing her arms defensively. "Paranoid? I saw how you were with him. It didn't seem friendly to me," I said, my voice rising. "Why do you have to make everything a big deal? It's Halloween. We're all just having fun." She shot back, her eyes flashing. "Fun? With him?" I couldn't keep the bitterness from creeping into my voice. "You know how I feel about that guy." Sarah sighed, her expression shifting from defensive to hurt. You're ruining the night. Can we just have fun for once? I ran my fingers through my hair, feeling the frustration bubble inside. Maybe I wouldn't have to if you weren't so close to him. Just, please, don't lose yourself tonight. With that, I turned away, needing space to breathe. The party continued around me, but I felt isolated, as if I was watching life through a foggy window. The laughter of our friends felt distant, overshadowed by the tension between Sarah and me. As I wandered into a quieter part of the house, I took a moment to collect my thoughts. I felt sick to my stomach, the weight of my fears pressing down on me. I had no solid evidence, just my instincts screaming at me that something wasn't right. Finally, I decided to go back to the main room. Maybe I could salvage the night, but as I stepped back into the crowded space, I froze. There they were, Sarah and Daniel, wrapped in a dance, their bodies close, laughter spilling freely between them. In that moment, it felt like my heart shattered. Time seemed to freeze. I stood there, my breath catching in my throat, as I watched Sarah lean in closer to Daniel, whispering something that made him throw his head back in laughter. The way she looked at him, with eyes full of life and joy, was a punch to the gut. In that moment, I knew my worst fears were coming true. Unable to contain my emotions, I turned on my heel and stormed outside, the cool night air hitting me like a slap. I paced the dark backyard, my heart racing, battling the overwhelming urge to confront them right then and there. I took out my phone and shot Sarah a quick text. "We need to talk." Now I waited, my pulse pounding in my ears, praying she would realize how serious this was. A few minutes later, she stepped outside, a puzzled expression on her face. "What's wrong?" she asked, glancing back at the party. "Why did you think it was okay to flirt with him like that?" I snapped, unable to hold back my frustration. "It's nothing. I wasn't flirting," she exclaimed, her voice rising defensively. "We were just having fun." "Fun? It didn't look like fun to me. It looked like you were ready to jump his bones," I said, my tone sharper than I intended. She sighed heavily, running a hand through her hair. "You're overreacting. You're being jealous and paranoid for no reason." "Paranoid? I saw how you were with him. You were practically glued to his side," I shot back, feeling the anger swell. "Seriously? You're really going to play this card? I'm just trying to enjoy myself," she yelled, her frustration matching mine. I shook my head, the hurt and anger boiling inside me. "This isn't just about tonight. This feels like a pattern. You seem so much happier when you're around him. Maybe because you've been so distant lately, I'm trying to enjoy myself." The air between us was thick with unresolved feelings. I opened my mouth to argue, but the truth hit me harder than I expected. I had been so wrapped up in my own frustrations that I hadn't realized how lonely she must have felt. But then, the image of her with Daniel flooded my mind again, reigniting the anger inside me. So what? You turn to him because you feel alone. That's your solution. She stepped back, visibly hurt. "You don't understand. I didn't cheat. I just wanted to feel like I belonged somewhere." "Belonged? With him?" I asked incredulously. "Stop. You're just twisting my words," she snapped. "Maybe it was a mistake to come here tonight. Maybe you should have stayed home if you were going to act like this." She stormed past me into the living room. "Run away from the problem, that's smart," I said bitterly, following her. "You can't just ignore the issues between us. You need to own up to your actions." "Why do you have to make everything about you? I'm tired of this," she yelled, tears filling her eyes. "Because it is about us. It's about what you did," I shot back, my voice thick with emotion. "Don't you dare put this all on me. You're the one who's been acting distant, pushing me away, making me feel like I'm alone." She wiped her tears away, anger mixing with pain. I stood there, the weight of her words crashing over me. "I didn't mean to push you away. I thought we were just going through a rough patch." "That's the problem. You keep avoiding it instead of addressing it. You don't even realize how alone I've felt lately." The air between us crackled with unresolved tension. I wanted to reach out and comfort her, but anger still coursed through me. "So you felt alone and decided to seek out another guy? That's your answer?" She shook her head, her tears flowing freely. "You make it sound so simple. It wasn't like that, it just happened." "Just happened? That's not an excuse," I yelled, frustration boiling over. "You're missing the point. I wanted to feel connected to someone, and you've been so distant." As the conversation spiraled into a shouting match, I felt a crushing wave of despair wash over me. "Maybe I was distant because I was trying to give you space," I said, my voice quieter now. "But I needed you, I needed us. Instead you were too busy with your own shit to even notice," she cried, her voice breaking. For a moment, we stood there, the hurt and confusion swirling inside us. I wanted to scream, to cry, to release the pressure building in my chest. Instead, silence enveloped us, a suffocating reminder of what had happened. When we finally pulled into our driveway, the house loomed over us like a ghost. I turned off the engine and sat there for a moment, dreading the conversation that awaited us inside. I wanted to believe that things could be resolved, that we could move past this, but doubt gnawed at me. Inside, I poured myself a glass of whiskey, desperate for something to numb the ache in my chest. Sarah went to the bedroom, and I followed her, trying to keep my emotions in check. "I don't understand why you can't see my side," I said, standing in the doorway. "I saw the way you were with him. It felt like you were 2 steps away from something more." She sighed heavily, shaking her head. "You're making this impossible. You're letting your jealousy ruin everything." "No, Sarah, you're the one who's ruining it by flirting with someone who's supposed to be an acquaintance," I shot back, my voice rising again. "I wasn't flirting. We were just having a conversation," she insisted, her voice trembling. "Does it matter? Because it sure as hell feels like betrayal to me. Maybe it was a mistake to come here tonight. Maybe you should have stayed home if you were going to act like this." She stormed past me into the living room. "Run away from the problem, that's smart," I said bitterly, following her. "You can't just ignore the issues between us. You need to own up to your actions." "Why do you have to make everything about you? I'm tired of this," she yelled, tears filling her eyes. "Because it is about us. It's about what you did," I shot back, my voice thick with emotion. "Don't you dare put this all on me. You're the one who's been acting distant, pushing me away, making me feel like I'm alone." She wiped her tears away, anger mixing with pain. I stood there, the weight of her words crashing over me. "I didn't mean to push you away. I thought we were just going through a rough patch." "That's the problem. You keep avoiding it instead of addressing it. You don't even realize how alone I've felt lately." The air between us was thick with unresolved feelings. I opened my mouth to argue, but the truth hit me harder than I expected. I had been so wrapped up in my own frustrations that I hadn't realized how lonely she must have felt. But then, the image of her with Daniel flooded my mind again, reigniting the anger inside me. "So what? You turn to him because you feel alone? That's your solution?" She stepped back, visibly hurt. "You don't understand. I didn't cheat. I just wanted to feel like I belonged somewhere." "Belonged? With him?" I asked incredulously. "Stop it. You're just twisting my words," she snapped. The weeks that followed the Halloween party were hell. I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal, and every time I saw Sarah, the memory of that night clawed at my insides. The tension between us was suffocating. We moved through the motions of our daily lives, but it felt like we were living with a dark cloud hanging over us, tainting everything. Sarah tried to reach out, to mend what was broken, but I was too caught up in my own feelings to allow her to get close. I wanted to trust her, to believe that she hadn't crossed a line, but the image of her laughing with Daniel replayed in my mind like a cursed film. One evening, after a particularly tense day at work, I came home to find Sarah sitting on the couch, an anxious look on her face. She had her phone in her hands, and as soon as I walked in she glanced up at me with a mix of hope and fear. "Can we talk?" she asked softly, her voice shaky. I nodded, though a part of me was still filled with trepidation. I sat down across from her, bracing myself for whatever was coming. "I've been thinking a lot about the party and everything that happened," she began, her eyes searching mine. "I know things have been rough and I want to fix it. I'm sorry for how everything went down." I felt a pang of guilt for the anger I had directed at her. "I'm sorry too. I didn't mean to push you away. I saw you with him and I panicked." Sarah nodded, her expression earnest. "I understand that, but I need you to understand that nothing happened between us. We were just talking. I didn't mean to hurt you, but I guess it felt nice to have someone pay attention to me when you were being so distant." The vulnerability in her voice hit me hard. "I've been trying to juggle work and everything else, and I didn't realize you felt neglected," I admitted, feeling the knot in my stomach loosen slightly. "I know, but it can't be an excuse for either of us to let things slide. We need to communicate better," she said, her eyes welling with tears. "I never wanted to make you feel like I was looking for someone else." We talked for hours that night, airing out all the grievances we had kept bottled up. It was cathartic, the air slowly clearing between us, as we both acknowledged our flaws. As the conversation turned more personal, we began to rekindle that spark we thought we had lost. "Can we try to make this work?" she asked softly, her eyes pleading. "Yes, I want to," I said, reaching out to take her hand. "I want to rebuild what we had, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes." In that moment, I felt a wave of hope wash over me. It wouldn't be easy, but we were both committed to fixing our relationship. We spent the rest of the night talking, laughing, and reminiscing about happier times. As the days turned into weeks, we began to find our footing again. It took time, and there were moments of doubt, but we gradually learned to trust each other once more. We made a point to go out together, engage in meaningful conversations, and find activities that brought us closer. One evening, as we curled up on the couch watching a movie, Sarah leaned her head on my shoulder. "You know, I think this Halloween really opened my eyes," she said quietly. "Yeah?" I replied, curious about where she was going with this. I realized that while it's fun to dress up and play pretend, we can't hide behind masks when it comes to our relationship. "We need to be honest about our feelings, no matter how scary it might be," she said. I nodded, feeling the weight of her words. "You're right, no more pretending, just us." That Halloween taught us both a valuable lesson about honesty and trust, about the importance of being open with one another. It wasn't just a night of betrayal, but a catalyst for change in our relationship. While the scars from that night remained, they also became a reminder of how far we had come, how much we had grown. With time, we found joy in the little things again: date nights, inside jokes, and quiet moments spent together. We had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, learning to navigate the complexities of love and trust. Halloween became less about costumes and more about connection, a night where we celebrated not just the fun of the holiday, but the resilience of our bond. As we headed into the next Halloween, we decided to throw our own party, embracing the season together, a reminder of the strength we had found in each other. We would wear our costumes proudly, not just to disguise ourselves, but to celebrate the authentic selves we had rediscovered in one another. My birthday was always a big deal for me. Growing up, it was a day that promised surprises, laughter, and the warmth of friends and family. After all, birthdays were about celebrating life, and every year, I looked forward to what my girlfriend Jenna had planned for me. This year felt particularly special. Jenna had been planning something for weeks, and her excitement was infectious. I had no idea what she had in store, but I could sense the love behind her secretive glances and playful smirks. As the day approached, I threw myself into preparations, eager to make the most of it. Friends were invited, decorations were set, and I even prepared a playlist of songs that reminded me of the good times we had shared. The night before, I had a weird feeling in my gut, but I dismissed it as pre-birthday jitters. Everything felt right until it didn't. The night of the party arrived, and our small apartment was filled with laughter and the clinking of glasses. I felt loved, surrounded by friends who meant the world to me. Jenna looked stunning, dressed in a deep blue dress that hugged her figure perfectly. Her hair fell in soft waves over her shoulders, and her smile lit up the room. I felt like the luckiest guy in the world. As the night went on, the mood was electric. We played games, shared stories, and laughed until we cried. But as the clock ticked closer to midnight, I started to notice a shift. Jenna had been acting a bit distant, her laughter not quite reaching her eyes. I brushed it off, attributing it to the stress of planning the party, but my instincts began to gnaw at me. I stepped away from the crowd, needing a moment to breathe. My friend Mark caught me on the way to the kitchen. "Hey man, you good?" he asked, a knowing look on his face. "Yeah, just needed a breather," I replied, forcing a smile. "Jenna seems a little distracted. Everything okay?" he asked, and suddenly my heart sank. "Yeah, I think so. Just a lot going on, you know." I forced a laugh, but the worry remained like a stone in my stomach. I watched Jenna from a distance, chatting with some of my friends, but there was something off in her demeanor, an unease that had settled in the pit of my stomach. As the clock struck midnight, I gathered everyone around for the traditional birthday cake. Jenna brought it out, beaming with pride, and I felt a rush of love wash over me. I blew out the candles, wishing for a year filled with happiness and love, unaware that everything was about to change. After the cake, people started to trickle out, their laughter fading into the night. As the last of our friends left, I noticed Jenna was on her phone, her expression shifting from carefree to something more serious. I went to her, wanting to share in the afterglow of the night. "What are you up to?" I asked, wrapping my arms around her waist. "Just texting Mark. He's going to help clean up," she replied, her voice light but her eyes darting away. "Okay, cool," I said, trying to ignore the growing unease. But as I started to clean up, I overheard snippets of her conversation with Mark, and it sounded more intimate than I expected. "Yeah, I know it's late. I just wanted to make sure you're okay," she said softly, her tone laced with something I couldn't quite place. "Everything all right?" I asked, walking into the room, my voice shaky. She jumped, turning to me with wide eyes. "Oh, yeah, just a little tired," she said quickly. "Is Mark still here?" I asked, my voice more strained than I intended. "No, he left. He was just checking in," she replied, but there was a tension in the air that felt suffocating. I forced a laugh, trying to brush it off. "Well, we had a great night, right? Just the two of us now." "Definitely. Let's finish cleaning up," she said, but I could sense her reluctance. As we cleaned in silence, the weight of her distraction hung heavy. I could feel the walls closing in, the excitement of the night replaced by a growing dread. "Jenna, are you sure everything's okay?" I finally asked, unable to hold back. She hesitated, looking at me with an expression I couldn't decipher. "Yeah, just tired, I guess." "Okay," I replied, though my heart was racing. Something was off, and I couldn't shake the feeling. The night that had started with so much promise now felt tainted, as if a dark cloud had settled over us. As the days went by, the unease lingered. Jenna seemed distant, and I found myself questioning everything. I tried to talk to her about it, but every time I brought it up she brushed it aside, insisting she was just busy with work and life. But the spark that once connected us felt dim, replaced by a growing chasm I couldn't quite understand. One evening, after a long day at work, I came home to find Jenna on the couch, her face illuminated by the glow of her phone. She looked up as I entered, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes, guilt, perhaps. I shook it off, trying to focus on the moment. "Hey, babe, how was your day?" I asked, trying to keep the conversation light. "It was fine," she replied, her tone nonchalant, almost too casual. I grabbed a beer from the fridge and sank into the chair opposite her. "You've been quiet lately. Everything good?" I probed, hoping to get her to open up. "Yeah, just busy," she said, scrolling through her phone, avoiding my gaze. I felt a sense of frustration rising. "You know you can talk to me about anything, right? If something's bothering you." She sighed, placing her phone down. "I know, I just don't want to talk about it right now." I felt the familiar knot tighten in my stomach. "All right, but if you ever want to share." Just then, my phone buzzed on the table. I glanced at it, and my heart sank. It was a message from Mark. "Dude, I need to talk to you. Can we meet up?" I looked back at Jenna, a feeling of dread washing over me. "I'm going to step outside for a minute. Mark wants to talk," I said, trying to sound casual, but my mind was racing. "Sure," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. I stepped outside, the cool night air hitting my face like a slap. I texted Mark back, asking him to come over. A few minutes later, he arrived, his face serious. "Hey man, what's going on?" I asked, sensing the weight in the air. "Look, I didn't want to be the one to tell you this, but I think you need to know," Mark said, running a hand through his hair. "What is it?" I asked, my heart racing. "It's about Jenna," he said, his voice low. "I saw her at the bar a few nights ago, with someone." I felt my heart drop. "With who?" He hesitated. "With me, man. We were hanging out and she was all over me. I didn't think anything of it at first, but then—" I couldn't breathe. "You mean to tell me you let her flirt with you? You didn't say anything?" "Dude, I thought it was innocent at first, but then she started touching me and I backed off. I'm sorry. I thought you should know." Anger surged through me, mixing with disbelief. "You didn't think to tell me sooner?" I spat, my voice shaking. I was going to, but I didn't know how you'd react. I thought maybe it was just a one-time thing," he said, looking genuinely remorseful. "No, it wasn't a one-time thing. She's been distant for weeks, and you didn't think it would be a big deal to tell me," I exclaimed, pacing the porch. "Look, I'm sorry. I didn't want to come between you guys, but I thought you deserved to know the truth," he said, his voice pleading. I took a deep breath, trying to process everything. "So, what do I do now? I can't just confront her based on what you saw." Mark nodded, looking sympathetic. "I think you need to have a conversation with her. Don't let it fester. You deserve to know what's going on." I felt like the ground had been pulled out from under me. I nodded, my mind racing with thoughts of betrayal and hurt. I returned inside, my heart pounding. Jenna was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone again. I took a moment to gather my thoughts, my stomach in knots. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady but strained. "About what?" she asked, glancing up, but her eyes were evasive. "About your birthday," I said, watching her expression change. "What about it?" she replied, her tone sharp. "About Mark," I said, holding her gaze. "I heard something I need you to explain." Jenna's expression shifted as she put her phone down, a flicker of panic in her eyes. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice suddenly shaky. "I heard you were flirting with him at the bar. Is it true?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice level, but the hurt was evident. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. "Jenna, just tell me the truth. Did you cheat on me?" Tears brimmed in her eyes as she shook her head. "It wasn't like that, I swear," she cried, her voice rising. "Then what was it?" I pressed, feeling the anger boil inside me. "You've been distant for weeks, and now I hear this?" "I just got caught up in the moment. It didn't mean anything," she sobbed, her hands trembling. "Didn't mean anything? Then why did it happen? It was my birthday, Jenna. You were supposed to be celebrating with me, and instead you were with him." "It was a mistake," I didn't want to hurt you, I swear. It just happened and I regret it so much, she pleaded, tears streaming down her cheeks. I felt a sharp pain in my chest, like a physical blow. A mistake, that's it. Do you think that makes it okay? I asked, my voice breaking. I know it doesn't excuse anything, but please, just listen. I felt lost, and I thought maybe I could feel something again. I didn't mean to hurt you, she begged. The betrayal hit me like a tidal wave, and I felt my heart shatter. So you thought cheating was the answer? You couldn't have just talked to me? I shouted, the anger spilling over. I didn't know how. I thought we were growing apart, she screamed back, her voice filled with desperation. Do you realize how messed up that is? You chose to go to him instead of trying to fix our relationship. I know I messed up, but I still love you. I don't want to lose you, she cried, falling to her knees in front of me. I felt a mixture of rage and sorrow. Love? You call that love? I shouted. You've destroyed everything we built together. Jenna collapsed into a heap, sobbing uncontrollably. I'm so sorry, she repeated like a mantra, but it felt hollow. I paced the room, my heart racing, my mind a whirlwind of emotions. I need time to think. I can't just pretend everything is okay after this, I said finally, my voice steadier than I felt. Please don't leave. I'll do anything. Just give me a chance to make it right, she begged, but I couldn't respond. I walked out of the apartment, the door closing behind me, like the final nail in the coffin of our relationship. The night air felt cold against my skin, and I knew I needed space to clear my head. Over the next few days, I found myself going through the motions of life like a ghost. I felt numb, trapped in a whirlwind of emotions. My friends tried to reach out, but I couldn't bring myself to talk about it. I felt betrayed, lost, and angry, and I didn't know how to articulate that. Jenna would text me, trying to check in, but I couldn't bear to respond. I needed to think about what I wanted, and whether I could ever forgive her. The days turned into a blur, and the pain of her betrayal was always present, like a constant ache. Finally, after a week of silence, I decided I needed to confront the situation head-on. I agreed to meet Jenna at a cafe, my stomach churning with nerves. As I walked in, I spotted her sitting alone, looking small and vulnerable. I approached her slowly, my heart pounding. "We need to talk," I said, taking a seat across from her. "I know," she whispered, her eyes downcast. "I'm so sorry for everything. I've missed you." "Have you really thought about what happened? Why it happened?" I asked, my voice calm but firm. "Yes, I've realized how much I took you for granted. I don't want to lose you. You mean everything to me," she said, her eyes pleading for understanding. "But you were willing to throw it all away for a moment's pleasure," I replied, feeling anger well up inside me. "It was a mistake. It meant nothing. I was just confused," she said, tears brimming in her eyes. "Confused? You're a smart woman, Jenna. You knew what you were doing," I shot back, feeling the betrayal clawing at my insides. "I know, and I hate myself for it. I wish I could take it back. I just want a chance to show you I can be better," she pleaded. I sat back, trying to process everything. "You say you love me, but how can I trust you after this? How can I be sure you won't hurt me again?" She leaned forward, her voice trembling. "I'll do whatever it takes to prove my love to you. I'll work on myself, on us. Please just give me a chance." The pain in her eyes was genuine, but I was still so hurt. I felt torn between my heart and my head. "I need time to think about this. I can't just forgive you right away," I said, my voice softening slightly. "I understand," she replied, a hint of hope in her voice. "I'll wait for you. Just please don't shut me out." As I left the cafe, I felt a mix of emotions. I didn't know if I could ever fully trust Jenna again, but I also knew I wasn't ready to give up on the relationship. We had shared so much, and the thought of losing her hurt just as much as the betrayal. In the weeks that followed, we both worked on ourselves and our relationship. Jenna went to therapy to understand why she had acted the way she did, and I focused on rebuilding my trust in her. It was a long and arduous process, filled with ups and downs, but we both fought for what we had. Over time, we found a new rhythm. It wasn't easy. There were moments of doubt and lingering pain. But we communicated openly, and slowly, I began to heal. I realized that while the betrayal had left scars, it also forced us to confront our relationship and grow stronger. Eventually, we started dating again, this time with a newfound appreciation for one another. I learned to forgive, and Jenna worked hard to show me that she was committed to making things right. It took time, but we discovered that love could prevail even in the darkest moments if we were willing to fight for it. And though that birthday would forever be tainted by betrayal, it also became a turning point for us. A moment that, while painful, led to a deeper understanding of love, trust, and the importance of communication.